So this season, I've had some pretty mixed reviews when it comes to what Mike McDaniel has done, how this team has unfolded with him in charge. Earlier on in the season, when Tua went down, I severely questioned his ability to adapt and have its team play in a system that doesn't have Tua, someone that doesn't have a short, unathletic, injury-prone quarterback at the helm. And then when Tua came back from injury, the offense was on fire. And then we again see losses against playoff teams, good teams, the Packers and the Texans. And I think rightfully so, I am back to questioning whether Mike McDaniel is the right man in charge for the Miami Dolphins. So in doing so, let's break down some of the potential replacement options for Mike McDaniel for next season. And let me make this clear before we get into things. I am not pushing my chips all into the camp saying Mike McDaniel should be fired. No matter how these 3 games go, if somehow we make the playoffs, then obviously Mike McDaniel should not be fired. But even if we don't make the playoffs, how these 3 games go, how the team plays for him, how the offense looks, how he's able just to collect the group and finish out this season will tell a lot about whether Mike McDaniel should or should not be the Miami Dolphins coach. But I do want to break down the potential options if he is ultimately fired, the good, the bad, the in-between. And I'm going to start with somebody who I absolutely do not want to see as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins start next year. And that's going to be Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders. So formerly, Cliff Kingsbury was the head coach in charge of the Arizona Cardinals. The spread offense he brought to that team, bringing in Kyler Murray with the number 1 overall pick. And early on, we did see tremendous success with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. 2 very different looks to the NFL, the short, unathletic quarterback and the new, younger, offensive-minded head coach that we've started to see more popularized. Could potentially call him a Mike McDaniel before Mike McDaniel now is here, obviously, with the Miami Dolphins. But Cliff Kingsbury brought his own scheme from college to the pros, a scheme that surprisingly did not work that much in college, even though he had Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback in college. But first few years in Arizona under Cliff Kingsbury, Arizona Cardinals looked really good. And then that offense started to get discovered, and teams started to be able to figure out how to stop Cliff Kingsbury, how to stop Kyler Murray-led offense. And almost a very similar story is currently being told over in Washington with the Commanders, with Jaden Daniels, and how hot that Commanders team started off this season. And then in recent times, the last few weeks, this offense has not looked as potent. And then they go into New Orleans, nearly get beaten by the Saints, a 2-point conversion that really should have been caught by Juwan Johnson. Would have been a very different story told for this Commanders team for the next few weeks of the season, where they look as a virtual lock into the playoffs as of now. But if they were to have lost that game, completely different story with the Commanders. Cliff Kingsbury, he is somebody that, we just saw a report talking about how Jalen Hurts is benefiting a little bit of pretty privilege. I think the same thing is happening with Cliff Kingsbury. He's a good-looking guy. He's a younger guy. He's an offensive-minded coach, and that is so appealing to have right now in the NFL. Everyone's looking for that next younger guy, try to get the next Sean McVay. So many guys from that scheme have gotten jobs, but you see somebody with Cliff Kingsbury, again, a younger guy, someone who's good-looking, someone that's easier to wrap your arms around as an organization. However, the results do not scream that this guy should be a head coach. He has struggled as a head coach in this league, and he's now struggling as an offensive coordinator as that Commanders offense is taking a little bit of a dip here in the second half of the season. Really sharp start by Cliff Kingsbury in the Commanders offense early on in the season. We've seen it fall off just as we've already seen him do as a head coach with the Arizona Cardinals. Now look, this next one is absolutely out of left field, but you got at the very least acknowledge it. Bill Belichick is currently the head coach of the University of North Carolina football team. And the only reason that you could even bring him up in conversation as a potential head coach candidate for anywhere, let alone the Miami Dolphins, is the small fact that he will have a $1 million buyout in his contract come the summer, whereas right now that is $10 million. So basically, if Bill Belichick doesn't like what he's seeing going on at the University of North Carolina, doesn't like having to coach in the college ranks, he can basically say, goodbye, I'm going back to the NFL, and it's immediately a possibility. I don't have to introduce you to Bill Belichick, just I had to with Cliff Kingsbury. He is the second most winningest coach in NFL history. He is 20-something games behind Don Shula for the single most winningest coach in NFL history. And how beautifully ironic would that be if Bill Belichick comes to coach the Miami Dolphins and breaks Don Shula's record? Personally, I would not mind him being the Miami Dolphins head coach. Just that I didn't mind Tom Brady potentially being the Miami Dolphins quarterback. I'm not going to be hung up on the fact that he was the Patriots head coach and he beat us so many times, and that rivalry was there, and the dislike that I had for him at the time. You cannot help but acknowledge how great of a head coach he is. Has he lost a little bit of his touch? Maybe. We've already seen a Bill Belichick guy come and coach this Miami Dolphins team with Brian Flores, and it didn't work out. So it wouldn't necessarily be a perfect fit, potentially just based off of that, as well as he is a bit up there in age. How long would he stay around and coach in this league? That is definitely a question mark, but you get the opportunity to bring in Bill Belichick. That is as a head coaching hire that I would 100% sign on for if Mike McDaniel were to be fired. The latest hot, young, offensive-minded head coach potentially out there is Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, and he is going to be the cream of the crop when it comes to this next rotation of head coaching hires, and it is seemingly all but guaranteed that he is going to be the next Chicago Bears coach. That is what all the signs point towards. He has been waiting for the perfect head coaching opening, and you just got the Chicago Bears taking Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, #1 overall pick last year. Good offense that has good personnel, but is certainly underperforming. Caleb Williams is not having as good of a rookie season as he would have liked. In a Bears organization that absolutely has to get this head coaching decision correct and would probably give him as much as he wants, both financially and in terms of power within the organization. So I understand that is probably what's going to happen, but if you do have a head coaching position opening at coming to this offseason, you have to put all of your chips in for Ben Johnson. If you're any team across the league, whether that is going to be the Chicago Bears, whether that's potentially the Jacksonville Jaguars, potentially the New York Giants if let go of Brian Dable, my reservation of going out and getting Ben Johnson is kind of similar with Cliff Kingsbury. We've kind of seen this story written here with Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel, a young, quote-unquote, ingenious, offensive-minded offensive coordinator. Now, the difference between the two, Mike McDaniel over in San Francisco did not call plays. That was Kyle Shanahan's responsibility and still is over there in San Francisco, whereas Ben Johnson is the play caller, and he calls some damn good plays. I mean, every other week, almost every week now, he is drawing up a play where an offensive lineman gets the ball. He is currently probably the best just play designer in the NFL, and when you have all the tools up there that he has in Detroit, you understand how he can pull off some of these things. He has so much leeway to do so with the talent he is given. He is going to be the #1 guy out there on the market, but because of how similar the story was with Mike McDaniel, I don't know if this team would let go of a young offensive play caller to bring in a young offensive play caller. I don't think if you're going to get rid of Mike McDaniel, it is a good decision to just go and get basically the same exact thing that you just had in Ben Johnson. That is not at all to question how good of an offensive coordinator that Ben Johnson is for the Detroit Lions. However, if you're going to let go of Mike McDaniel, and just anytime you see a team fire a coach, usually you go from one extreme to the other. And that's what we saw when we did bring in Mike McDaniel. You let go of a strong, rugged defensive guy in Brian Flores to the younger, more charismatic Mike McDaniel, the player's first head coach, Mike McDaniel. So if the Dolphins do let go of Mike McDaniel, I do not see us bringing Ben Johnson for those reasons, as well as I think it's just penciled in at this point that he is going to go to the Chicago Bears. And before I get into my top guy that the Miami Dolphins can bring in as a head coach if we let go of Mike McDaniel, go check out Green Gridiron. Go get yourself one of these beautiful replica helmets here. We got college football, we got pro football, we got miniature size, we got the standard size NFL helmets where you can get just about every single team you can imagine, especially in the NFL, every single team. Go get yourself one of these. Get yourself one of these beautiful throwback helmets. Get the regular style that we got going on right now. Whatever you like, go check out Green Gridiron. Link down below in the description for doing so. So my final guy to talk about here in this video, and there's other names that could be mentioned, and please let me know your thoughts down below on guys you'd like to see brought in as Miami Dolphins head coach if we let go of Mike McDaniel. The guy that is my #1 option has already done it in the NFL, has done it with poor quarterback play at times. He's somebody that installs a really tough mentality in his team. He is a former player. He understands what it's like to be in an NFL locker room. He understands what it's like to lead these type of men, and he has done so with tremendous success with lesser means available to him. That is going to be the former Tennessee Titans head coach, Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel was a name that I was talking about last offseason as a potential defensive coordinator to come in for Vic Fangio, and I still would have loved him to have come in. Anthony Weaver, I think the jury's still out as to whether he's going to be a good defense coordinator. He has not been given the best tools to do the job at defensive coordinator this year. But Mike Vrabel undoubtedly is one of the best defensive minds in this league. He got it done in Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill as his quarterback, and Dolphins fans know best about the limitations of Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback. He did it in a market in Tennessee where they are not a free agent destination. They are going to have to overpay guys to come to Tennessee or to stay in Tennessee. He did it with seemingly the front office fighting against him. That whole A.J. Brown saga where he wanted A.J. Brown to stay. Him and A.J. were in constant communication about him staying as a Tennessee Titan, but it basically came out that he did not have that final decision, and ultimately A.J. Brown was traded. He saw pieces being removed from the team deteriorating over time as a roster, but the competitive nature was always there. They fought and they won games they needed to win. They got to an AFC championship game where they had a lead over Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. That year they beat Tom Brady in the New England Patriots. The last game Tom Brady was in a New England Patriots uniform, the first round in the playoffs. Then beat the number one seed Baltimore Ravens convincingly, so beat the Baltimore Ravens, and then went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game, falling just short, doing it with Ryan Tannehill, doing it with not the most clever, ingenious offense in the league, but riding a strong defense and a strong, gritty offense that was led by Derrick Henry. It wasn't pretty. It was a lot of play action. It was a lot of hand the ball to the best running back in the league, but he just found a way to get it done. Mike Vrabel understands what it takes to lead men in this league. He would shift this Miami Dolphins team completely 180 degrees from a weaker mentality team that folds in big games, that folds against more physical opponents. Instead, he will be the one to impose the will on the opposing teams. We will be back to being one of the tougher teams to play in this league, just as we were against Brian Flores, a gritty team with a strong defense that when you saw us on your schedule, you got scared because you knew you were going to face one of the most physical teams, one of the most demanding teams in the league. Mike Vrabel can command a team, he can install a culture, and he can get results done on the field. I would love to see Mike Vrabel brought in to replace Mike McDaniel if it ultimately comes to do so. Let me know your thoughts on these guys that I've mentioned, as well as potentially any other guys you'd like to see the Miami Dolphins bring in as a head coach to replace Mike McDaniel if it comes down to it. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. While doing so, go over, check out Green Gridiron, go get yourself one of the beautiful replica helmets. While also down there, hit that like button, hit that sub button. We appreciate y'all very much for watching. We'll see y'all next time. Have a great rest of your day. Go Dolphins.